Good evening, everyone, members of the City Council and department heads. Welcome to the September 7th, 2021 Lackawanna City Council caucus. Although we have an abbreviated agenda, there might be a couple items that might be more time consuming. Items 1 through 5 are administrative. Dispense with those until the regular meeting. Item number 6, a communication from Mayor Iafallo requesting that her letter be read into the record, which will be done during the regular meeting in honor of Mrs. Sennick and Mr. Kazmerchik. Item number 7 will be a presentation both for the caucus and for the regular meeting by our public information officer, Chuck Clark, who helped put on a symposium about a month ago that turned out to be a very productive, very well welcomed. Our own director of development, Richard Stanton, was one of the guest speakers, did a great job. Chuck, do you want to give us a brief overview at this time, and then we'll call on you for the regular meeting and you can get into a little bit more depth in case more of the public is watching.
Will do. Thank you, Mr. Council President. What I'm going to present to you today is an overview of the economic development marketing plan that supports Mayor Iafallo's and this council's vision for economic development in the city. So it covers everything from traditional advertising, website development, customer definitions of the target audiences we'll be going after, and the different programs and tactics that I'll be primarily spearheading to help the mayor and Rich move forward with the different marketing elements of economic development. They'll include everything from the Renaissance Commerce Park, which is the old steel plant property, and then heading east into all the city-owned properties, and even inclusive of some private properties that are large development parcels within the city that we want to help bring some awareness to. So it's an overall marketing effort that has been on the mayor's agenda for quite some time. COVID put us behind. Obviously, we couldn't do much in 2020, but now that we're in a new year with some doors open, we had the opportunity to take advantage of these things.
Great, thanks so much, John. Next item is number 8, communication from our second ward councilman, Jeff Szymanski. Councilman Szymanski, you want to give us a little purview of this?
It's just a friendly reminder that the council is to be reminded or pretty much notified when someone retires. That's all. So it was passed in 2014 by 2 councils ago, and just a
I saw the copy that was included in the packet. Carolyn, anything on your end as far as this?
No, I do submit items on the regular. Sometimes things get a little backed up. However, I did speak with Jeff today, Jeff DePasquale, about being able to access the resolutions. The resolutions are bound in books, and there's basically one for each year. Is that correct, Jeff? More or less.
Yeah.
When it gets to a certain.
And I'm glad you touched on that, because she did come down and we did have some conversation. We did show the resolution that Councilmember Szymanski was referring. And the controller makes a valid point, is if resolutions are passed before they take office, there's no way of knowing of that resolution unless they physically come down and basically look at every resolution from that point forward to see if anything pertains to them. So unless the city controller actually keeps a binder themselves of any resolution that pertains to that office, where she has easy access to, they can go through and flip over, go through the pages when whomever takes office, you'd have to just assume that there's something that affects you and come down and check, for however long you need to check.
So if the council passed that resolution, the controller, since it affects that department, doesn't automatically get a copy of it?
They do,
They do.
but in this instance being 2014,
Right.
Unless that controller at the time, and I don't know who it was, keeps those specifically in a separate binder marked, resolutions affecting controller, somebody comes in the office, they don't know what's passed. And I think that's where some of the miscommunication comes in.
Yeah. Thanks for
Can I just bring up a point on that as well?
Sure.
From time to time, individual council members request things from city officials, which is fine. But I just think it's a common courtesy, because you just either, and I don't mean to point you out on this, Jeff, or anything, but if you guys could just also copy the mayor, just so she knows, that there's a request made from one of her department heads. Certainly, she's got an open door policy, as did Jeff when he was mayor, and we want to, keep a good relationship with the council. But just as a courtesy, I think we should try to keep her informed of any requests made by council or council members.
If I could expand on that. I did have a conversation with the mayor regarding different things that go on the agenda that she doesn't know about till she receives her packet. And I told her, I'm not the keeper of what the department heads do as far as what they submit. We had conversation, and she feels as though anything that the department heads submit for the agenda should go through her first before it comes to my office.
No, that's different.
I know, I'm just expanding it though. Let me finish.
Right.
So with regards to the council, it's the same thing. I mean, who's going to facilitate constantly going upstairs to say, okay, this is now on the agenda? The mayor gets a packet, gets a copy of the agenda.
Okay, but it's one thing to submit a communication to you as city clerk to put on the agenda, which can then be passed by the council and delivered to a department head. It's another thing for a council member to send a letter directly to a department head.
Oh, in that sense, okay.
That's all I'm
I got
saying.
you.
And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but as a courtesy, just let the mayor know. You have the right to put things on the council agenda, and the mayor, you're right, the mayor does not have a right to police those unless it's coming from one of her department heads. And that's not what she's trying to do.
And I think, Rick, and not to interrupt you, but I think what the city clerk was mentioning, if I understood correctly, is if there's an issue between the mayor and a department head not communicating, that really doesn't affect us.
I understand, but, just to try, the council acts as a body, not as individuals, and this particular matter does not involve any sensitive information, but the next request from somebody might, and for it not to slip through, it's just nice so that everybody knows, what the request is and that it's coming.
Well, the key to effective government is communication.
Absolutely.
So can I ask a question?
Sure.
But if I give something, let's say to Mr. Clark or let him know, I would, there's no way he's gonna give it to the mayor because we don't understand.
You're right. You're right, but sometimes things don't happen that way.
That's something to keep in mind.
And part of the reason why I clocked this in, and Rick's right, everyone's right, really. I mean, I could have just called everybody and said, hey, there is this, but because most of the council members weren't around that happened, they wouldn't have known that was even an item. Right. So this is just for future council members. We have one sitting in the audience, most likely, that he wouldn't have known that this was in there. So it was just sort of a gentle reminder, but it was also an item.
Extension of that.
We're a lot of extending.
Extension of that. If certain council members don't know, certainly the department will know what it is. So.
Well, we're all on notice.
Well, Council President, may I add something as far as the resolutions? We have access to the city charter online. We have access to the city code. Maybe that's something in the future that we could do is make the resolutions PDF friendly so that we have access to it, because any items that generally go through my office is regulated by the Office of the State Comptroller. So things need to be done on a timely basis. And if we decide to accelerate something, I mean, I would have to check everything I do, say, post. It's something for the future is to get the resolutions online would be extremely helpful.
And I think the focus and the target should be streamlining communications, not making things more complicated than they have to be. You're busy enough as it is without having to worry about things like this. But a good point nonetheless that was brought up by Councilman Szymanski. Anything else on that? All right. Business registrations, Justin Smith. I'm going to ask our Director of Development, Director Stanton, about this, because I noticed in the supporting paperwork you did indicate that was not a permitted use.
Correct. If I can explain. Under permitted uses, the closest it comes is pedestrian-oriented commercial uses, including retail and/or personal service establishments, restaurants, hotels, private clubs, and professional offices. What they've done is they've imposed a commercial kitchen and then cardboard in the front window in the heart of our central business district. Before they leased this property, I had a meeting with the owner of the premises, of the business, Justin Smith, who runs the Remedy House in Buffalo. He asked what were the allowable uses. Was a commercial kitchen allowed? I told him not as a standalone, but as part of a restaurant, it would be. Then he just set up a commercial kitchen and put in this application saying a commercial kitchen is accessory to an office use, which I just can't, nor can the code enforcement officer make that leap. So when we interpret the code, we do not find this to be a use. We find it to be a truck commercial use, not at all oriented to the pedestrians of Ridge Road or South Park or Lackawanna, but just as a backdoor operation for a business that does not serve the local area, which runs contrary to the ordinance, which is trying to promote pedestrian-oriented uses, and also takes advantage of one of the most strategic locations in the city and puts up cardboard in front of the windows and makes an unlawful use. So based on that, I recommend that for the first time that you not grant a business registration because it's not code compliant.
Rick, how do you feel about that?
Well, after hearing what Mr. Stanton so eloquently explained, I will look at the code as well with Mr. Stanton in the morning, but I believe he's correct. If it's a non-permitted use, then you have the right to disallow the business registration.
So I understand. At this particular location, in reading his application, that kitchen was not designed. His intended use for that kitchen is as a support for a business downtown in Buffalo, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's not open to the public?
No.
So he can't use his own property, even though it's a kitchen. If he had this in his house, couldn't he do that in his house?
There's possibilities to do home occupations in houses if they use 25% or less of the house. There's different regulations for every district. I'll hand up the central business district zoning to you. And you can see the allowed uses in there. And it's just the commercial use that he's trying to put it to is just, I'm not reading it as allowed. The code enforcement officer is not reading as allowed.
How is this any different from a business that might be for catering? Do we even allow catering in a business district?
I mean, I'd pull the ordinance back, but I'm not sure that we do if they don't have any on-site use. If it's not pedestrian oriented, it's not a restaurant. No, I don't think it would be in the central business district.
Okay.
I mean, I'll go back to the ordinance word by word, but that's my inclination.
Well, the first words are pedestrian oriented.
But
I
I
mean, and it's the whole purpose of a central business district.
asked the question, because I'm kind of familiar with the guy that owns the family members. And I asked him, was he gonna do a coffee shop or something in there? And he was telling me that eventually we were gonna put a little small coffee shop or whatever, or something like in there. Maybe that could be speed up.
Well, yeah, I think we have to deal with what we have in front of us today. And if that's the case, then the recommendation is it not be approved. If there's dialogue and communication between the law department, director development, and Mr. Smith to try to work this out and come into compliance, I'm sure we'll entertain this in the future.
So are we looking at table or receive and file it? Because my problem is if we table it, yes, they may come by and adjust a game plan, and then once we approve it, they revert back to the original game plan, and then we're hung out to dry. So
What the recommendation
They
is,
can always refile it.
right.
the recommendation is to not approve it.
Right.
Deny it.
Yeah,
Tonight.
so I think that's what the indications are. Rich, I'm going to return this.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else on that issue? Next is Mark Williamson doing business as Bolin. Approval for business registration. Any comments on that? Next is Byron Jazari, DBA Broadway Bobby's Pizzeria, 677 Ridge Road, business registration. Any comments?
Are they planning on changing any of their subs? Because their subs are out of this world, just so you know.
So are the reps.
Yeah.
In the sales.
I don't think they changed the name.
Next is the entertainment license, Stack Burger, a one-day business permit for a live band. That's regulated by hours again, right?
11 PM maximum.
Anybody have any issues on that? Of course, we'll get into old business table items if necessary at that time. It's now approximately 12 minutes before 7. The regular meeting will be called to order at 7 o'clock unless somebody else wants to bring an issue up.
I just want to mention, Council President, I see the mayor has 2 people stake to adjourn in memory of. I also have some as well, so.
Very good. And I would assume that most council would want to join in a second, make it unanimous at that point, when the time is appropriate.
I just want to add that on Saturday, September 11th, there's going to be a ceremony at Fire Station 3 commemorating 20 years, and the mayor will be there, and I believe Mark Cars is supposed to be there too, so should be a nice ceremony.
Yeah.
So from police and fire,
Very
we
good.
do this every year. So
It's at 8:30.
8:30, yeah, and then there's a baseball game at, I think it's 7 o'clock for police and fire. And just to let you know, the firemen kind of hold the trophy for the last 4 or 5 years.
Sure, they have emergency vehicles for all the broken bones and pulled muscles.
I heard they were pulling Mr. Tuza for pitching because he was launching softballs to it, or big meatballs to his son. And tipped the scale. That's all I heard. That's all I heard. You
All
know,
right.
shaving points of baseball and, you know.
Very good. All right, we'll resume at 7. right, good evening, everyone. On behalf of Lackawanna City Council, I'd like to welcome all the public, department heads, council members to the regular Lackawanna City Council meeting for September 7th, 2021. I would ask everyone rise for the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Please be seated. Mr. City Clerk, would you take the roll, please?
Absolutely, Mr. Council President. Just a reminder, this meeting is being recorded. Council, Ingram.
Here.
Samansky. Here. Moretti.
Here.
Sirdike. Excused. Morano.
Here.
Department heads, law,
Here.
development,
Here.
public works,
Here.
lead public safety has been excused.
Yes, I think recreation. Excuse me.
Controller,
Here.
public information.
Here.
All right, is any of the public signed up to speak at this meeting? Not, we'll move on. No, nothing on it? Thank you. All right, approval of the minutes of the regular meeting of August 16th, 2021.
Morano moves to adopt minutes as written.
Ingram second.
Motion by Morano, second by Aaron to adopt minutes as written. Ingram.
Yes.
Samansky.
Yes.
Ready?
Yes.
Morano.
Yes.
Carried 4-0. Departmental reports 1 through 5.
Morano moves to receive and file departmental reports 1 through 5.
Second.
Motion by Morano, second by Samansky, to receive and file departmental reports 1 through 5. Ingram.
Yes.
Samansky.
Yes.
Moretti.
Yes.
Morano.
Yes.
Carried 4-0. Communications from the mayor, number 6. Mayor Iafallo requests the city council adjourn today's meeting in memory of 2 lifelong Lackawanna residents who passed away recently. Mrs. Irene Sanek, age 92, and Mr. Henry Kuzmirchik, age 99.
We're adjourning our memories at the end. Motion to receive and file.
Second.
Mr. Council President, did you want to read the mayor's communication? Or
At the
right
end.
at the end, you're going to read it?
Yeah.
All right.
And I believe Councilman Samansky also has some other names.
All right, so I have a motion by Samansky, second by Morano to approve request to take place at the adjournment of the meeting. Ingram.
Yes.
Samansky.
Yes.
Moretti.
Yes.
Morano.
Yes.
Carried 4-0. Number 7, Mayor Iafallo requests the city council allow Chuck Clark, Public Information Officer, a few minutes at today's meeting to present the city of Lackawanna marketing efforts focused on economic development.
Mr. Clerk, would you care to make the presentation?
Yes, I would. Thank you, Mr. Council
Excuse me,
President.
I just need a motion to approve this.
Morano
Second.
moves.
Ingram second.
So I have a motion by Morano, second by Ingram to approve request. Ingram. Samansky.
Yes.
Moretti.
Yes.
Morano.
Yes.
Carried 4-0. Thank you.
Chuck, which one are we on? The
Uh,
economic development or the
The strategic, the one that says strategic marketing plan.
Okay.
So for the folks watching at home, I have this on PowerPoint and we'll walk you through it. Mr. Council President, I'm going to draw you back to a conversation that you and the other councilmen had with me back in early 2020, with the exception of Councilman Zemansky. You weren't in office at the time. Mayor Iafallo's vision when she took office obviously was to create a platform for jumpstarting economic development and business growth in the city. Obviously, she put out her signature legislation in the unification of the tax rate. And then from that point, the goal was to put together a marketing plan which created an economic development brand for the city of Lackawanna. Lackawanna does not have an active chamber of commerce. We do not have an IDA. Those are organizations that usually do the marketing aspects for municipalities around economic development. She asked me to come on board at that time. I came from a 30+ year career in banking with a focus on marketing and small business lending, commercial banking, know a lot about this footprint. And so the conversation we had, if you remember, was how do I bring this marketing and public relations experience to the city and what does it look like? And that's what we're going to talk about today. One distinction that I want to draw for people is the difference between, marketing and public relations. Marketing is a paid form of promoting your brand. What I mean by that is Given enough money, I can put myself in any event, any print advertising, any placement I want to position my brand. Contrast that to public relations, any activity you get in the press, whether it be traditional print media or online, is based on relationships that somebody like me, a public information officer or a communications director, would have with the press. That's called unearned media, because you're at the discretion of the writer and you're at the discretion of their editorial board in terms of what they get. Both go hand in hand together because you have to have a good public relations plan to support your marketing efforts. What we're going to talk about today is the marketing side. So the mayor has charged me with a number of things around marketing. We've been working on these since early 2020, but very soon after our conversation in your office, COVID hit and the world pretty much went on pause. And so the work that comes out of my office since early 2020 to most recently really has been around public relations and media, all the messaging around COVID, city programs and policies. And now we're at a point finally where we can move forward with some of the more strategic and core marketing elements that support Director Stanton and obviously Mayor Iafallo's broader efforts. So you'll see up here, 5 different objectives, and it's a little bit of marketing speak, forgive me, but I wanted to make sure that everybody understood what we were trying to do, and I will show you with examples what this actually means. So the first thing that I was asked to do was to define a brand for the city of Lackawanna relative to economic development. There's a lot of competition out there, a lot of noise, a lot of messaging around development, and Lackawanna, while Director Stanton and others have tremendous relationships with people in the community, there really was no definite brand for the city of Lackawanna. The second thing that we did, working with the mayor and working with Director Stanton, we identified a target group of customers using marketing speak. Basically, these are the industries and types of organizations that we want to move forward with to try to get them to do development in Lackawanna. And a value proposition is marketing terminology for what is that thing that you do better? What is that element of your brand that you do better, stronger, more effectively than any other brand? And the goal here of marketing is that you're trying to align your product and service to a target set of customers with the hope that your value proposition is strong enough where they pick you, not only pick you in terms of buying your product, but also act as an advocate for your brand, meaning referrals and positive reinforcement. The third thing was to package and bundle all of the different development assets. If you spend any time with Director Stanton, he's a library of different land assets and different development opportunities in the city, but nowhere did we have a centralized resource where all of these things were packaged and put in one place. So what I'm going to show you today is a little bit of that. The other element was to create strong marketing networks. And again, through one-on-one relationships, some of these things exist, but as a brand of the city of Lackawanna, one-on-one with these networks, it really didn't exist. So what we're talking about in terms of a marketing network are people like commercial developers and real estate firms, economic development agencies. I can't speak highly enough of the ECIDA, John Capolino and his team, but they continue to be partners as we go along. Not to be lost in this, our referral sources like accountants, lawyers, environmental and other engineers, and the private sector developers that are out there. For example, when I was in the banking industry, I worked on a number of development programs around putting branch locations in communities. That's what I'm meaning by private sector investment. Those are the types of people that make their own in-house decisions. You don't necessarily show up on any radar, but they're definitely out there and they spend big dollars. And then the last thing is to design marketing programs and activate them, if you will. So let's start out with developing a Lackawanna brand and target audiences. What you see on the left of the screen is an ad that I created in concept, and with help from a graphic designer who works for Buffalo Business First, created this into a camera-ready advertisement that actually hit the paper for the first time this week in Buffalo Business First as part of our sponsorship of an economic development forum, which I'll talk about in a little bit. If you look at this ad creates a number of things. Up at the top it's a new type of imagery, excuse me, for the city of Lackawanna. We're obviously long past the days of being a steel town, but yet we want to honor our history, honor our heritage, and look forward to the new opportunities that the redevelopment of the steel plant provide. So what you see in this imagery, some of it's common sense and others may take a little explanation, but clearly the cultural link to OLV, Father Baker, the library as a Carnegie designated institution. On the development side, the redevelopment of the former Bethlehem Steel Plant, which is now known as the Renaissance Commerce Park. You see a ship that is the Port of Buffalo, which is part of the Gateway Metroport complex, which is one of the key assets that got Sucro Sourcing to find and invest in the city of Lackawanna. And then if you look at some of the smaller imagery that's in there, they all represent the target customers that we're going after, which if you look at the body copy in the right, it's light manufacturing, warehousing and distribution, and mixed use development. And those are rather broad terms because as Director Stanton would tell you, within each one of those categories, there's numerous opportunities that could come from them. But, the Renaissance Commerce Park, for example, perfect example of light manufacturing is the TMP Magic Eraser facility that's being built. Uniland is building 2 spec warehouses for future use that'll all be around either warehousing and distribution and perhaps light manufacturing. If you move over, heading north towards the Buffalo City line, that's where Sucro Sourcing is turning 3 abandoned properties and building 3 abandoned Bethlehem Steel properties and building a new one to create a refinery, warehousing, packaging, raw storage type of activity. So this imagery was by design to create a new perception of the city of Lackawanna. The headline, we're obviously looking for companies that are looking to locate or expand. That's common sense. In the if you look to the right, in the 4 boxes, or on the 6 boxes, excuse me, you'll see that those are the different attributes. You heard the term value proposition in the prior screen. Director Stanton and I sat with the mayor and talked a lot about what makes Lackawanna unique and what are the things we want to leverage. Again, using my library here of Director Stanton, one of the first things he talks about when he talks about Renaissance Commerce Park is the world-class multimodal infrastructure that the steel industry left our area. That's road, that's rail, that's ship, and obviously we're not far from the airport. So to the extent that any commercial cargo needs to go, but multimodal transportation is the legacy that the old steel industry left this area, and it's a huge selling point for us. The seminar that you referenced, Council President Morano, where we focused in on federal opportunity zones and brownfield opportunities. Clearly, those are key assets, for the city of Lackawanna. The foreign trade zone designation that is at the Port of Buffalo, that is the first port of entry, I believe, into the United States. Director Stanton.
It's an initial one, so ships can come directly from South America into that port, and that's what they do.
Yeah, so that's clearly a selling point for us. And then obviously being part of the Buffalo Niagara metropolitan area, we have a rich, population to draw from. And then clearly, the mayor's, signature legislation around unifying the tax rate to make, it more economical and financially feasible to do business in the city of Lackawanna. So this slide here kind of represents at a very high level what the Lackawanna brand and the target audiences are coming out of the gate. The next thing I want to share with you, and I'm going to actually pull out of my presentation here and move into the actual City of Lackawanna website. So you had heard me mention about packaging and building Lackawanna's development products. So what we did was I did a lot of research with Erie County databases, Google Earth, spending countless hours with Director Stanton when he didn't have the time, but he gave me the time generously, spending time with the mayor. And what we did was build a 2-part platform, both a website and a marketing brochure, and I'll explain to you what that means. Before I go forward, I'd be remiss if I didn't acknowledge Shannon Katra, who works in Tony DeSantis's area. Shannon's our webmaster, fancy term for Shannon's the person who works with me to put content up on the website. Our website functionality is functional, but it's basic. It's not the greatest website in the world. And there's a lot more graphic capabilities that are out there today, very expensive, obviously, to buy and manage. Shannon has almost expertly found ways to leverage features within this website that we've never used before. And so I want to give my hats off to her. She's been absolutely amazing. So where do we find the development products and bundling? If you go to the Lackawanna website, and the Lackawanna website is, Gene, excuse me for 1 second. Yeah, no, not that. Thank you, Councilman. On the screen, it's showing the slide. I don't know that it's showing. Hang on 1 second. I realize why it did it. Well, it's showing the slide. It's not showing my screen with the website. So people are seeing a static screen as opposed to me being in the website.
Ladies and gentlemen, Gene Oliveri III, ladies and gentlemen. All right. The mastermind behind the scenes.
That's okay. So why don't we dump out of this and I can do the presentation from my PowerPoint. So good technology planning, always first thing you do is expect it not to work.
Yeah.
So we have
Accomplish that.
what's that? We have accomplished that. We're going to go back to my presentation. That's that one right there. Okay, let me just make sure that it slides. Okay,
Yep.
very good. Okay, so I was trying to give you a live demo, but it did not work as expected. So the backup plan is to show you these screen grabs. So the Lackawanna website is, as the screen implies here, www.lackawannany.gov. And what you would do if you landed on that site, you would hover in the top navigation bar, and the navigation bar is the bar that starts from home to calendar. Okay, so if you were to come over the development component of this and you would hover over, you would see three options for you to click on. Economic development opportunities is the new website for economic parcels in the city of Lackawanna. When you land on, when you click that, the first page you're going to land on is a broad homepage, a landing page, if you will. And what it does is show a map of the city of Lackawanna in kind of a thematic setting. Director Stanton and I and the mayor have talked a lot about, the thematics, and the thematics are just designed to give developers and other people in the development network an idea of what the city looks like thematically from one end to the other. It doesn't mean that you're going to drive through or walk through and see a sign that says culture and recreation or education and community. But developers, especially people who have folks like me on site, they tend to operate in themes. So we came up with these, almost natural breaks in the city. You can read them at your leisure, but basically from the Renaissance Commerce Park heading east, we've kind of cut the city of Lackawanna into parcels, if you will, in terms of the thematics. The more important thing for the presentation here is you see the boxes on the bottom. The boxes on the bottom, if you are actually in the website, are hyperlinks to each of the properties that we're featuring in our marketing website and in our brochure. So obviously and there's a mix here between the county-owned property, which is the Renaissance Commerce Park, the city-owned parcels, which are the primary pieces of land we're marketing, and then there are several private large land parcels that we're bringing to the forefront here. And the reason we're doing that is that these are actively being marketed by commercial real estate agents throughout Western New York. So we wanted to bring some attention to this. So if you were to click on any one of these, you will come to the page. So theoretically, I'm going to suggest that we're clicking on Renaissance Commerce Park. And what you would have in Renaissance Commerce Park is a rather simple page, because the ECIDA, Robbie McPherson, and the marketing team that works under John Capolino at the ECIDA do just a fabulous job on their own website, which is here, the ECIDA-NY.com. If you want to learn anything about Renaissance Commerce Park or any of the properties that the ECIDA manages, it would not have done justice to redevelop any of their sites. So we give them recognition and awareness here on our page, but anybody who wants to know about Renaissance Commerce Park should go to that website, and Mr. Capolino and his team will take great care of you. So let's just say we clicked on another one, and this is where it gets into the meat of Lackawanna properties. I did a lot of research on how commercial real estate companies, commercial marketing companies package their products online. So this is an example of the Albright Court property that is sitting in the first ward of Lackawanna. And there's a Google Earth map that shows the property actually adjacent to another one, the Wilmouth parcel, which if taken together are almost 6.5 acres. But individually, the Wilmouth property is about 2.5 acres and Albright Court is about 4. So the point here is to show a prospective developer, whether it's a commercial developer or a private investor, where this land opportunity sits, the proximity to Renaissance Commerce Park, the special designations and incentives that go with each of that. So if you look at the parcel at a glance, you'll see, the zoning, you'll see the special designation, any special incentives that are possible. It gives a high-level overview of the utilities, a high-level overview of the travel arteries that are nearby relative to this property, and then some marketing language underneath. And so each one of the hyperlink boxes that you saw on the homepage, there is a site like this for every single one. And then the box below, a call to action, which would be, Director Stanton would be our point person. So that's an example of city-owned property. Here's another example of city-owned property where we don't necessarily have the economic opportunity zone or the brownfield designations, but clearly a large parcel of land in the second ward, 539 Ridge Road, which is the old St. Barbara's site for those of us who remember that. That is a prime piece of property across the street from Memorial Field, across the street from the Carnegie Library, and near the obviously all the work that's going on to ultimately remill and repave Ridge Road, and at points in the not too distant future, the significant over $1 million project to reconstruct Center Street. So again, same type of process goes on with every one of these pages to give a developer a certain look into the property. The last example I'll give you on properties is one of the private ones. The eyesore gas station at the corner of Abbott and Ridge that has been on the radar for far too long. But that is actively being marketed through Pyramid Brokerage. Again, Pyramid Brokerage dwarfs the city of Lackawanna in terms of its marketing capabilities, but nonetheless, we want to make sure that we're bringing these things to light in our marketing efforts so that in the event the mayor, any of the council members, Director Stanton, ever have an opportunity to talk to somebody about this area, that we're connecting into that as well. So all of the properties have a similar thing. The closing page to the property, to the website is something that most good commercial real estate and development marketers use, and that is a high-level data estimate of demographics and traffic in the area. Now, typically, when you're dealing with a large footprint area, you would see demographics and traffic counts by each individual property. City of Lackawanna is not that large. So if you used a central point from any of the properties that are on the website and you did them in the traffic increments or even mileage increments from the center point of each of those properties, the demographics and the traffic patterns do not change significantly. So what we did with the demographics is, with the cooperation of the work on the ECIDA website, these estimates were provided by them using the Dona Street extension, which is on Renaissance Commerce Park, as the pinpoint for most of the city of Lackawanna properties. Again, if you were to go to 539 Ridge Road or the corner of Abbott and Ridge, the demographics and or the other elements don't change all that much. And then as far as the traffic patterns, Route 5, Ridge Road, and Abbott Road are combined traffic counts that move either north-south depending upon or east-west depending upon the artery. And that just gives, in particular, mixed-use developers an opportunity to see what type of vehicular traffic outside of the city proper, tends to come on these roadways. Again, it's just another one of the tools that they use for determining whether a site is attractive or not. So once you move, so I'm sorry, let me go back to the website. I wish I did have the website available, because the one thing I wanted to share with you is that if you were on the website, in addition to viewing the page as a website page, at the bottom of the page, both on each individual page and on the home page site. So I'm gonna go back because I'm using terms that are not going to be familiar to people. Oh, Gene, we lost our signal here, buddy. Part 2 of technology doesn't work when we need it to work.
Whole computer's-
Was it your laptop?
I think the whole computer's up.
Okay, so what I think happened is we probably chewed up too much battery space. So I'm going to close my presentation with this. If you were on the website and you were looking at either the home page, which is the page with the map, or each individual page, which are the ones I just went through with you, at the bottom of the page, you will see a PDF. You can click for PDF. You can either pull up the entire website presentation in a complete form, like a brochure, or you can print each individual page for that particular property. The last thing that cut out before I was able to complete the presentation is what we're doing from an advertising and marketing perspective, how we advertise it or how we activate these things. So the ad that I showed you at the beginning of my presentation is in this week's edition of Business First. We were one of 4 primary sponsors for an economic development forum that you've referenced, Mr. Council President, that featured Director Stanton. There's a 7-page advertorial wrapping up the program in this week's Business First. And there's a full-page advertisement, the one that I showed you early in the presentation. That ad has a useful life of 6 or 7 more opportunities. So it's more than just a one-time shot. We'll be able to use that in a number of other Business First, either advertising or sponsorship events. The question might be, obviously, why do we focus on Business First? Business First is the primary business publication in Western New York. They are part of an organization called American Business Journals that have similar publications in 30 cities throughout the United States. They not only print the same publications that we do here in Buffalo, but the digital and online assets that you buy from those get shared across all of their American properties footprint. So we're not just advertising here in Western New York, we're sharing our opportunities with those outside of Western New York. So our marketing efforts going forward will be advertising, will be leveraging the Business First assets. And then the last thing would be, we are going to reach out and actually have open house information sessions at some point, either starting late in the 4th quarter or early in 2022, where we're going to go after and target individual developers, some of the influencers that I showed you on the other pages, to actually come into the city of Lackawanna, have this presentation or others led by the mayor, Mr. Stanton, and others, including the council. That's our opportunity to showcase us on a one-on-one basis. It's a practice that's commonly used in business banking within the financial services industry when they're trying to sell SBA loans and other commercial type of financial products. So in a nutshell, that is the high-level marketing effort that's happening in the city. This work is all being done by one person, me. There's no mass marketing department here. There's not a ton of staff on board. It's me from a marketing standpoint, it's Director Stanton from a product standpoint, it's the mayor from a visionary and directional standpoint. And obviously we have, Shannon, helping on the website front. We have Gene on the technology side. And then as we need freelancers to do things like ads and those types of programs, we bring them in. But the actual work, the design, the research, the hours that went into that is basically a one-man shop that, you folks have here in the city. The last thing I will say is that as we go forward with this, we've talked a lot about how to bring in or how to generate new awareness and new opportunities into the city of Lackawanna. Well, one of the key things that we have to leverage, especially with things like the open houses and forums of that nature, is how do we tap into the network of our existing businesses and the people they know and the networks that they have, and including the council, including our planning board, including civil service, all of the networks that we already have, and in particular, the loyal businesses that have stayed with Lackawanna through good times and in bad. They're probably one of our greatest opportunities to move forward as well. So I appreciate the time. That's the presentation at a high level, and hopefully you found it informative.
Chuck, I'd like to thank you for your clean effort that you put forth to make this presentation. Most importantly, for a first time expedition, for lack of a better word, into the marketing aspect for the city ever in its history, to my knowledge. We'd like to thank you for all the work you've done. And it's exciting to finally have an opportunity to brag about the city on an economic basis. And we thank you very much for all your efforts. We thank Director Stanton, of course, Mayor Iafallo for her vision and for suggesting you and your professionalism and your expertise in the first place, Chuck. We thank you very much, as well as Shannon Catra for her efforts on the website and Jean Oliveri. So we thank you all very much for your efforts, and Lackawanna is going to be a better place because of your efforts. Thank you so much.
Appreciate the time. Thank you.
I don't know if any other council members wish to say anything.
I thought it was very thorough, and I thought it was a really good job. I also am very impressed with the new website layout. Very knowledgeable, very thorough, and I think overall job well done by all. John?
Thank you.
Thank you.
They do an outstanding job. We got a good team.
All right, that's a tough act to follow. Moving on the agenda to item number 8, a communication from Councilman Szymanski. Councilman, you here to
Well, we discussed this in caucus, so I'm just ready to receive and file it. It was just informative. That's all.
second.
Regarding Council Member Szymanski's communication number 8, we have a motion by Szymanski, second by Morano to receive and file. Ingram,
Yes.
Szymanski,
Yes.
Moretti,
Yes.
Morano,
Yes.
carried 4-0. Business registrations, Justin Smith doing business as Remedy House Inc., which is an off-site kitchen, 717 Ridge Road.
Morano moves to deny the business registration request pursuant the information brought to light at our caucus through Director Stanton and his and also City Attorney Rick Judah. This matter is going to have to be revisited apparently, but for the time being, the recommendation is that it be denied, and I so move.
Second, already seconds.
A motion by Morano, second by Moretti to deny business registration. Ingram,
I was going to question, but I don't know if I can.
Sure you can. I'm saying the question.
Yeah, are we gonna give this gentleman notice of why we turned him down, whatever?
I put a call into him about 3 or 4 weeks ago, which I had not received a response to tell him what the problem was. I sat down with him before he rented the property to tell him what was lawful or not. And if he calls, I have no problem telling him exactly why not.
Okay, yes,
so Ingram,
yes.
Szymanski,
Yes.
Moretti,
Yes.
Morano,
Yes.
carried 4-0. Mark Williamson doing business as Bowl Inc., a bowling center and pizzeria, 1840 Everett Road. Just for the record, that's the former Everett Lanes.
Morano moves to approve business registration.
Second.
Motion by Morano, second by Szymanski to approve business registration. Ingram,
Yes.
Szymanski,
Yes.
Moretti,
Yes.
Morano,
Yes.
carried 4-0. And Blind Line Sherry doing business as Broadway Bobby's Pizzeria, No explanation needed. 677 Ridge Road.
Morano moves to, second,
Motion by Samansky, second by Morano to approve business registration. Ingram.
Yes.
Samansky.
Yes.
Moretti.
Yes.
Morano.
yes.
Carried 4-0. Entertainment licenses. Stack Burger, 1506 Abbott Road is a one-day business permit for a live band.
Morano moves to approve entertainment license.
Moretti second.
Motion by Morano, second by Moretti to approve entertainment license. Ingram.
Yes.
Samansky.
Another question, what kind of band?
Yes.
All right, that's been denied. No, just kidding.
Moretti.
Yes.
Morano.
Yes.
Carried 4-0. Table items or old business.
I'd like to mention for the record and for the public's consumption, through the efforts of our Commissioner of Public Works, Tony DeSantis, there has been an ongoing issue relative to two traffic lights, one on Sharon Parkway and South Park, and the other one on Abbott Road that have been knocked down. And although efforts have been made to secure and replace those lights with a former subcontractor, that has not been realized to any fruition. As a result, Mr. DeSantis has gone and contacted and is anticipating receiving a proposal and an estimate from a firm out in Syracuse relative to getting those two lights replaced. Tony, is that accurate?
Yes, it is. We have two, one with Ferguson, one with Syracuse Signal, and we're gonna take a look at both proposals and see which is best.
Great, thank you.
Is there a time frame on that? Because school's starting and that's where kids go across.
We just talked to one of the vendors and they said within a week or so, they should have an estimate. So I'm hoping to get something up by, I'll give you a date, maybe 3 weeks or so.
Right.
But I don't have a permanent date.
Thank you. Anyone else on any table items, old business? If not, then I'm going to move to adjourn pursuant to Mayor Iafallo's request. I'm going to read into the record her letter to the city council and to the public. I'm requesting to have the Honorable Lackawanna City Council adjourn their Tuesday, September 7th, 2021 meeting in memory of two lifelong Lackawanna residents who passed away recently. Mrs. Irene Stanek, age 92, and Mr. Henry Kazmierczak, age 99. Irene died tragically on July 20th following an explosion at her home on Bedford Avenue, where she had lived since 1964. A Lackawanna High School graduate, Irene worked for over 30 years in customer service and sales. In retirement, she devoted her time to family, community endeavors, and her hobbies of cooking, baking, and gardening, for which she was renowned throughout Lackawanna and neighboring communities. Henry Kazmierczak, or Cowboy, as he was affectionately known throughout the area, passed away at his home on August 22nd. Cowboy was a highly decorated World War II veteran of the U.S. Army, where he served honorably from 1943 to 1946, attaining the rank of Staff Sergeant with specialty as a paratrooper. Cowboy's most notable honors include the Purple Heart, Asiatic Pacific Theater, 3 Bronze Stars, World War II Victory Medal, 2 Bronze Stars, Philippine Liberation Medal, World War II, and Good Conduct Medal. He also earned Distinguished Unit, Expert Infantry, and Combat Infantry badges. And in August of this year, he was awarded the Conspicuous Service Cross, thanks to a collaborative effort between my office, Mayor Iafallo's office, and that of New York State Senator Tim Kennedy. After the war, Cowboy worked at Bedlam Steel, where he retired after 40 years of service. Please join me in honoring these residents whose lives left indelible marks on the city of Lackawanna and offering thoughts and prayers for their families. Sincerely, Annette Iafallo, Mayor. And I believe Councilman Samansky, you also wish to.
I do have some names, and it's a very nice letter written by the mayor regarding those two great Lackawanna residents. I'd like to adjourn the memory of Jim McMahon Jr. Jim was an Army veteran. He was a post 63, the oldest post in Erie County, vice commander. He was a staff sergeant in the Army. He was president of Boys Association, and I've known him for quite some time. He's just an overall stand-up guy, and he will truly be missed for sure. Mr. Joe DeCenzo, who for all of us, and I'm sure Jack remembers Joe, because Joe was the kind of guy that would come to these council meetings, every meeting, and bite onto a topic and he wouldn't let go until the topic was fixed. And oftentimes I would say he was a pain in my butt, but he was a good pain in the butt because he was always sincere in what he believed in. So I found out he passed away and I was pretty upset about that. I'd like to adjourn the memory of the former mayor of Angola, my friend Hub Frawley, who passed away recently, and the drummer of the Rolling Stones, Charlie Watts. So.
Thank you, Councilman Smansky. Moreno moved. I don't know if we have a second.
Second.
Make it unanimous second.
At all.
All right, so I have a motion by Morano, second by et al. To adjourn the meeting in memory of lifelong Lackawanna residents, Irene Stanek, Henry Calvert's music, Jim McMahon Jr., Joe DeCenzo, Hub Frawley, and Charlie Watts.
Charlie Watts.
Ingram,
Yes.
Samansky,
Yes.
Moretti,
Yes.
Morano,
Yes.
carried 4-0. Thank you, everybody.
Feel better, Kevin. Go lightly.